Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun 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 dun. See, I like singing along with the theme. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Pedro.
And I'm Meredith.
And this is Gritty Reboot, the grittiest goddamn show about reboots you've ever heard in your life. Not entirely true. But today we are still talking reboots. We are continuing our section on Pulse, or Kairo if you prefer. But today we are taking a look at the 2006 American version starring Kristen Bell, directed by nobody in particular, and a blue wash. That is basically what this film features. This is
trying to be stylish, but they're really not.
No, listen, that early O's grading is really bad.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen a couple of films already that have had some egregious grading, and this movie just goes up on the list of just like, oh, we could push the whole shot blue. Oh, that's amazing. And it looks like shit today.
Yeah.
You know, and then you still see a little bit of that today, but it's not quite as bad. But this film did not age well in any respect, and that's very impressive for a movie that's not absurdly old.
Yeah, the effects are terrible.
They really are. They're truly atrocious,
abysmal.
With the exception of like the guy doing like, you know, some like the man who is playing the ghost. Like, he does some nice movements with his body, and that's about one of the few positives I can really say. And this movie features an actress that I truly love, and that's all the positive I can say.
She was in the middle of her Veronica Mars.
Yeah. This was like her first like big movie.
Yeah.
Kristen Bell's, who we're talking about, obviously. This was like her first like lead in a movie, and this is what happens when you're the lead of like a CW show, and people kind of like you and think you're a decent actor. You're going to get a shot to be in a low budget Hollywood horror movie, and this was the one she picked, and she picked a poor one.
Yeah.
To say the least. This didn't help her career at all, or really in the least. And I think this film's only legacy is her slightly poking fun at it in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
You know,
even though she's talking about one missed call in that as well, she does throw a couple shots towards this film.
She is pretty fucking popular now, so she had to swim through a little shit-filled waters in order to get to where she is.
Yeah, well, I think we've just determined that Kristen Bell is an actress of many, many talents. Yes. But horror is not really one of them. She really stunk at playing a horror protagonist. And maybe it was just the script, because it's not great.
No.
And maybe it's the director, because I think he only did like an erotic thriller for Lifetime before he did this movie, and then never did anything else.
How erotic could it be on Lifetime?
Exactly. Because, by the way, we're talking about Jim Sonzero. If you click on him on Wikipedia, by the way, he doesn't even have, like, here, I'll show it to you. He doesn't even have like a list of credits. It just has like 3 things that he did. One of which is a Mariah Carey video that he didn't even truly direct. And he made some cutscenes for Resident Evil 5.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's the racist one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, this movie is unremarkable in about every single way.
Yeah.
I don't know how else I could sum it up. This is the only time I miss the old format where we would do 2 movies at one time. Because this is one of the few times we would just kind of slam on this movie a little bit in like 15 minutes and move on. As opposed to how we used to do the show.
Yeah.
And if you think that old format was superior, you can let us know that. And how can they let us know that, Meredith?
You can email.
Mm-hmm.
Get on your typewriter.
Pull out your Word, right? Remember that typewriter thing I showed you? I forget what it's called. It's like an LED or like an e-ink screen on it, and you just use that as a typewriter, and it's like $500.
Get one of those.
And hook in your dial-up.
And you can email us at grittyrebootcast@gmail.com.
That's the oldest way to get a hold of us. Or you can simply look up Gritty Reboot on Instagram and TikTok and follow us there for latest updates and clips of the show and random thoughts and things by us.
Musings.
You know, musings. Musings. That's all that we're about. You would like musings because you're a lot like Peggy Hill. They can't see that reaction. They can't hear it. It wasn't a good stare. That's all I'm going to say, gentlemen. It wasn't a good stare.
Josh, it's Maddie. Oh my God.
What are you doing?
I don't know. That's what's driving me crazy.
So I can vaguely recall when this came out. I watched Veronica Mars. There were dozens of us. I watched it during its original run. It wasn't very popular, so I was kind of excited that she was going to be in a movie. And I remember seeing this trailer and thinking like, oh no, that doesn't look good at all.
No.
And then I was able to see Pulse, or Kairo, I guess we'll kind of say it like that.
This is what came up.
And obviously, I really, really like that movie a lot. So I was very worried about the American remake. And I did not see it in theaters when I saw the initial reviews. They hid this from critics, so no blurb this week from Roger Ebert. Because they hid it from him, so why the hell was he going to go seek out Pulse, right?
Yeah, right.
So he doesn't bother with that. And most of America really didn't, by the way. I do want to mention this was a $20 million film as the budget. It made around $30 million worldwide. That's not really what you're looking to do with a cheap horror movie like this. You're looking to make $60 million. So you made a little bit. They didn't double the money they spent. So this is pretty much a loss on this.
I'm glad you went through the budget and everything because I was going to mention it as well.
Yeah,
I was just curious myself.
This is not the cheapest movie, and it looks the cheapest film.
Yeah.
It looks as though it really is the cheapest film. I'm very surprised. Like when I looked at the budget, I really thought it was going to be like a $7 million film. And when I saw 20, I was like, wow, man, how much did Kristen Bell make on this? Like, I feel like a lot of people got paid on this movie, but didn't necessarily show up really in the work at all.
Yeah.
But I did want to mention that it really came out with just a real thud. Critics did not like it, and it just kind of faded from obscurity. And I know the first time you saw it was when you reviewed it this week.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit of a story, and it's about Blu-ray and HD DVD. So I don't know if anybody's old enough or anybody even still cares, but there used to be a format war, and Blu-ray basically handed HD DVD its ass. And the only reason I bring this up is because Sony backed Blu-ray, which was a format that they made, and Microsoft sort of supported HD DVD. By having support, I mean they had a little dinky HD DVD drive you could hook up with a USB to the Xbox 360. And when HD DVD flamed out, I bought one of these. And for $5, I got 35 movies. And one of the 35 films was Pulse. And that was the first time I ever viewed the unrated cut of Pulse. And I barely remembered a thing from it. To put it in perspective, I backed up my entire library, over 1,000 films, right?
Yeah.
Backed them up all into a hard drive. There was only one movie that I didn't even bother to do that with, and that was Pulse. It was the only HD DVD I didn't bother to copy over. Because it still looked pretty good, by the way. But it was the only one, and this was the only time it came back to bite me in the ass. And we'll talk about it when we get there, because I did have the unrated cut, which is not what we ended up watching.
No.
We watched the theatrical PG-13 cut, because it has one notable omission. And we'll get to well, I guess we should mention it now, because we probably won't talk about it, because it's not going to be in your notes.
Yeah.
And that is, in the original film, Michi is talking on the phone, and someone climbs up a tower behind her, and just walks off the building.
Yeah, and you see every bit of it.
And kills themselves. And it never cuts away. It's just one long shot. You're initially not drawn to it in the original version. In this film, because it was PG-13, they had to cut that out. So that scene only existed in the unrated cut that was on HD DVD, Blu-ray, and DVD, of course. And possibly VHS. I have to check if there was a version.
Yeah, because you remember distinctly a scene, and I was like, man,
I remember
writing this down the whole time.
When we were at the finale, when they're outrunning the cell signal with the fucking ghosts in it, this one goes on the rails. When they're doing that, I was like, wait a minute. What happened to the suicide scene?
Yeah.
What happened to the falling? I remembered it. And I was losing my fucking mind because I'm like, I saw it. I know it. And I was like, did I Mandela affect myself? Did I only think I saw it? It never ever occurred? Oh my God. Am I from a different dimension? So the next day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to cycle through it. And I discovered Tubi has the worst seek feature in the world. It doesn't show you a thumbnail. Mm-hmm. So you're just randomly stopping wherever. And after 5 minutes, I'm like, I don't want to watch this terrible movie again. And that's when I asked ChatGPT if there was a difference in the unrated cut and the theatrical. And then I found a nice list of that. And that scene was the most notable omission.
Yeah.
And there's another scene where she references what occurred that they had to cut down as well, because that would have been weird to just leave that in.
Yeah.
So, and that's really about it. I wanted to mention it because it's one of the original film's iconic shots. It was in here. So if you also remember it, you happen to watch this movie and it's not there, you're not insane. You haven't gone to a different dimension, and this world is slightly different than your own. No, they just cut that out of the PG-13 version. And I'm pretty sure nobody remembers seeing this in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it right there. I just wanted to mention the film's most iconic shot is copied, but it is just not there in this theatrical cut. And it's also not done very well, is it?
Yeah.
It definitely draws your attention a lot more to the background than the original shot did. And I think that hurts it immensely.
I think so.
Yeah, because we just got to see it framed up, and it's very much like they are angled up at the tower as opposed to where it's just a really wide shot of her kind of pacing the frame, just talking on the phone.
Yeah, because she's in the
Michi in
background.
the original. Yeah, it's just a background element. It's not till, like you notice, she's still climbing, right?
Yeah.
Like it never cuts away, so you can only watch the one thing. And it's only after a few seconds you realize something's happening back there. And the other movie, like we're just conditioned. The second we have a shot of something, we know something's going to happen. And when they cut to this low angle shot, with it has a tower framed in the background perfectly, your eyes are immediately drawn to it. So it's not the same thing. It doesn't quite have the same effect. Much like everything else in the movie that they tried to copy, they fucked this up too.
Yeah.
I just want to mention it because there's a lot of that to go around. But with that being said, I want to talk about this film's most iconic scene because that is probably one of the more interesting elements in this movie. How does this lame-ass remake start?
It starts with a college student walking through a campus. And then we see our first ghost sighting.
It's really thrilling stuff.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. He gets in an elevator and an old man gets in after him. He gets off a floor and the guy follows. It's really dark and creepy in this library. He starts looking for the old man and ends up running right into him. He goes off to spooky things start happening.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how it goes, where we have... So while the original film took the time to build up a level of dread and introduce you to these characters and show you a few things, you know, this movie immediately begins with spooky stuff.
Yeah.
And traditional American scares, right?
Yeah, because the old man's creepy and all that. And it's really dark in the library and they're in a place where not a lot of people go. And it's very cliche.
Well, the original film opens on those shots in the water when they're on the boat. So you're initially drawn to what am I looking at? Because you're not given any explanation.
Yeah.
And then you cut to an earlier time. And so it initially invests you into the film and lets you know that there's something there. This movie immediately lets you know that it's a much more shallower remake. And there's nothing wrong with that if it was focused and effective.
Well, he goes down one of the aisles and books start coming off the shelf on their own.
As they do, the old Ghostbusters trick.
And then a ghost comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of sucks the essence from him.
Yeah, the ghost kind of just pull your soul out, basically, your will to live out.
Whatever, something.
It is what it is. And by the way, in the unrated cut, there is more of the soul sucking out. I don't know why. It's not particularly bloody or violent. I watched the original, the unrated deaths, and they're literally 2 extra seconds of it in every one that they cut out. So I just wanted to mention it. It's one of the other changes of note. So,
well, here's where we meet Kristen Bell and her friends.
Yeah.
She's upset about a recent breakup, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so she's talking about Josh here, who is, I guess, sort of her boyfriend. So we take a time to get a very cliche scene where people sit down and talk about how they feel about things and who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not painful, but it's not a particularly well done scene at all. It's just a very clunky who we are. Let's introduce ourselves in kind of a fun way sort of scene. And instead of having them do something fun, they're just sitting in a bar. So...
Yeah, that's basically this scene. There's nothing.
Well, I just listen. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here, but even in Evil Dead or something like that, those kids take the time to kind of do a few things together, right? Have some banter back and forth. That's not just who they are and what they're about.
Let you know that they're like friends and stuff.
Yeah, this movie is clearly trying. This is our exposition scene. He's writing a script according to Sid Field's book of screenwriting. And I do want to mention, Wes Craven is credited on this screenplay. However, Wes Craven, in an issue of Fangoria, pretty much refuted that he had any involvement in the movie. He wrote him a draft of the script. He wanted to do the movie, and they never really called him back.
Well, you've just blown through one of my only facts.
Oh, yeah. No, I knew that coming into the movie. Yeah. So I did want to mention it here just because it was on my mind. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were going to get to it, but it's the only interesting, it's the only interesting element of the pre-production. And I wanted to mention that here. The script is not very well done. It's a very poor adaptation. And listen, this could be Wes Craven's script because he wasn't the best screenwriter. So I won't say that at all, but it is very bad. So I'm going to give Wes a break on this one and take him at his word that they pretty much changed everything else in his script. They probably took a couple of core ideas and kept it like that. I can imagine him narrowing the 2 storylines down to 1.
Well, our protagonist here, she's walking home and a creep comes up behind her. And I think he's a creep, but it turns out it's one of her friends, Tim.
Yeah, you were all about hating on.
Well, it's
on
like
Tim.
he comes up behind her and he's like, I'm going to walk you home. And she's like pointing out all these reasons why he should be walking her home because that's stupid.
Yeah.
Because it's like out of his way and shit. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. Like he stands a chance with her.
Like he's trying to swoop in now. It's just have a boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
You did not appreciate that at all. Also, he's not a handsome guy. If he was a good-looking fella, this probably would have been okay, right?
Yeah,
Well, then, see, there you go.
maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe not?
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not.
You look conflicted, is all I'm saying.
I think I know one thing. He's a creep.
He is. He does act a little creepy here. It's okay. He doesn't make it, I
Yeah.
think.
She quickly gets him to fuck off, and she makes it home. And
Phrasing on that.
this is where I found out her name is Maddie.
Maddie. Well, you knew it from before because you were trying to put Maddie. You were like, "Who's Maddie?" when we were watching the original Japanese film.
Yeah.
And I was because if you look on I think it's right on Google. It has Michi's actress credited as Maddie as well. So they just combined the two names, which I guess it is the same character, even though Maddie in this film has a lot more to do than Michi in the other film.
She gets a message from Josh, her ex, and she calls him back, but he doesn't answer. We see on his side with a dirty telephone and a weird computer screen that he's not doing so hot.
Yeah, basically.
Maddie's friend, Isabel, she's leaving after a one-night stand. They kind of have like a weird relationship. They text each other, and she's leaving after a one-night stand to go back to her.
Yeah, and that's
roommate.
Christina Milian, by the way, the singer.
Isabel. They call Izzy.
Yeah, this was like her debut. This was somewhat of a big deal, but once again, nobody remembers anything about this anymore. No one.
Maddie's at class. Isabel comes in late. And then Maddie ends up at Josh's apartment.
Yeah, so we're now getting up to where things are beginning to occur. So she comes into his apartment. This is similar to the scene where she meets Taguchi in the previous film.
Yeah, he doesn't answer. He's behind a plastic curtain.
Yeah, and it's shot in a very similar way. And he does hang himself, which is, I guess, the payoff here. But he uses a phone cord this time, I think.
She actually looks around a lot more. She looks in her fridge and there's maggots in there.
Well, I think what's interesting in the original movie is that it's just a normal thing, right? Like, it's kind of dirty in the apartment, but it's not, like, completely fucked and disheveled or anything like that. Like, you can tell, like, he's been focused on other things and something's a little troubling, but you don't have any idea of the gravity of it. That's what makes the suicide impactful, correct?
Yeah.
That it's just a normal thing and bam, you're thrown into this horrible event. In this movie, Kristen Bell opens the fridge and there's all this signature horror American bullshit, like maggots, and it's all disgusting everywhere, right?
Yeah, and he looks like shit.
Yeah, and in this version, like you get like a rash.
Black skin rash.
Yeah, like a black skin rash. And like you generally like are gray complected and look like a ghost. So there is a much more noticeable effect to people who are infected as opposed to the nothing in the other movie.
He basically tells her to stay there, and that's when he goes to kill himself. Well, while she's waiting, she looks in a closet because she hears something, and it's a dying cat.
Yeah, she just finds this wet cat.
This like gooey cat.
Yeah, then that's all. It's an unexplained goo cat. And this is something that I never thought I'd ever have to say. But yeah, she just opens like, and I'm like, as I saw it, I was like,
dying.
I was like, well, I don't know what I expected was in there. But I was like, what's the story of the goo cat?
Yeah.
Like, did the cat get its will to live taken too? Does it do that?
Maybe.
Like, we don't get an explanation on this weird, creepy occurrence. And listen, I don't know. I don't think there was like a shot where Kristen Bell's in the shot with the wet cat. I think it's just a shot of the cat.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were just like, so what do we put in there that's creepy? And somebody was like, I don't know. What about like a gooey hamster? No. Let's make it a more common animal. Let's dog. No, it's too friendly. Cat. Perfect. Let's make it happen. So, I mean, because obviously somebody had a conversation about this is all that I'm saying.
Goo cat.
And this goo cat doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't work, and it never is referenced again. They didn't call animal control. I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know what's going on at this point.
Yeah, we get Kristen Bell phoning it in as Maddie.
Love Kristen Bell. She is just
phoning
awful in this movie. Yeah, like her friend commits suicide. She's like, oh God. Like you heard that in the trailer. Like it's just not much of a reaction. Because it's not much of a reaction. Like her ex-boyfriend is dead. You know, and she didn't hate him. Like it wasn't that kind of ex-boyfriend. I just don't know why her reaction is just so muted. You know, it's not, this isn't, she shouldn't be trying to match the other actress's performance from the original film. This isn't that same kind of movie with that kind of intensity. It's just very strange.
She meets up with Izzy at the police station. She calls her mom, and her mom doesn't answer, just like the last movie.
Except it means nothing here.
Yeah. The tent to this movie is so blue.
Yeah, now you mention it, and this is when they're walking around, and the night scenes are just complete blue wash, completely blue. They push it about as far as they can. It's not even like an orange teal kind of thing. It's just blue. Like, yeah it blue. Really is. Yeah.
Blue. I'm a bee, but I'm a...
Exactly. I don't have the song queued up. I'm pretty sure if I edit it in or whatever, but yeah, it really is that. It's just so goddamn blue, and it's just how they treated movies like this and try to give it some kind of weird edge or style.
Maddie has a nightmare about Josh. And then the next day, she's basically screaming at her professor.
So she... I think he's her therapist, right?
I don't know what he is. Therapist. He's a professor, but he's
her professor. He's a professor of
therapy.
Yeah.
He's therapizing.
He's a therapier. He's an analrapist. I forgot. Oh, the fucking dream. You just skipped like right past it, but
yeah, because it wasn't interesting.
Well, yeah, it has these really kind of kooky, nearly black and white kind of dream sequences, and they have a lot of abstract imagery. And I'm not saying like they're interesting; they're just abstract. Nothing in this movie is visually interesting. It's just different than every other element of the movie in the visual design, correct?
Yeah.
And they don't really pay off with anything. It's just something to kill time.
Yeah.
And that's why you really skipped over it. I just want to mention, like, they are sort of striking initially, but there's just not much in them that's an image that really sticks with you over time. It's just kind of some creepy shit that occurs. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they do it a couple times. And listen, eventually something in the movie has to pay off. And when nothing does, all I can do is just criticize. And that's what I'm doing here. It doesn't amount to anything. And it's not that interesting.
Well, like I said, she's screaming at her professor, therapist.
She's already starting to lose it.
She cries. More bad acting.
She does not actually cry. She acts like she's crying, but there's no wetness at all in Kristen Bell's face. Kristen Bell's face is the driest place on earth during this scene. There is neither tears nor real emotion on it.
It's so bad.
It really is. And man, I love Kristen Bell. I feel bad bashing her, but she sucks in this. I'm pretty sure if she watches, she'll be like, yeah, I suck in this. Like, because every now and then you're not at your best, and this wasn't a good script. This director had only done fucking erotic fantasies for middle-aged women on Lifetime.
Well, her professor therapist tells her to feel her feelings.
But yeah, that is what he says pretty much.
What he does.
You need to feel them and understand them.
Yeah,
okay,
feel your feelings.
Revel in them.
And she leaves.
Yeah, she needs to go through the grief is what he's trying to get across, basically. And this movie tries to kind of shoehorn the elements of like the suicide and the grief about it, but they're literally just going to say it over and over again, as opposed to like, you know, kind of just letting scenes play out and showing you the events.
This is the first time where we see somebody cleaning off a dark spot.
Yeah, so we do have an element of that, and this is one of the few just things that are just occurring in the background around the characters that the first movie really did so well, of this slow, quiet apocalypse around everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is how it should feel, and this movie can't even get that idea right, because it's this chaotic thing that's always happening and everyone's telling you about, right?
Yeah, boring.
Yeah. It has a breakneck pace, but it's somehow slower. I don't know how that works.
Maddie and her friends are all online chatting, and suddenly they get a message from Josh that is just help me over and over again.
So instead of like the phone calls where we got help me, you know, in that very creepy kind of whisper, we get a DM. Is basically what, not even a DM, it's a group chat. So, I mean, it's.
He slid into their DM.
We're too early for that. And that's not how that works. But I guess technically as a ghost he did. But obviously, yes, it's equivalent, but it's not very scary. It's not very creepy. I think some of the ghost whispering, I think, really was unsettling, you know, because.
Unfriended was scarier at doing this whole like computer horror thing.
Yeah. If we're talking about like computer horror and stuff like that, that is a subgenre.
Using text messages and, you know, chatting to kind of build tension, which is unique.
Yeah. We talked about the other movie that you already forgot about earlier in the year, Missing. That's computer horror.
Yeah.
She's trying to find her mother and she's gone missing.
Yeah.
This is a small subgenre. It's like this, The Lawnmower Man. You ever seen Ghost in the Machine?
The anime?
No.
Oh, that's Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah. Yeah, that is Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, no, Ghost in the Machine. It was a movie from the 90s. It was directed by the same woman who did Tank Girl and Freddy's Dead.
Oh my God.
And it's just a movie where I think the serial killer dies at like a computer factory or something, and like he gets absorbed into like early internet, and because of this he can control all the electronics in the world. It's like a lower budget Lawnmower Man, but it's somehow much less stupid, but also being more boring. But it occurred, it happened, I saw it, I've seen it more than once. I've seen it more than 5 times. Okay, I've seen this movie probably like 20 times because it was on cable a lot as a kid, and I watched more TV than anyone when I was a small child.
Good.
So anyway, McCready finds the bloody underwear, and he heads... Okay, what are we talking about now with Pulse? Where are we at? No, we're not talking about the thing.
Bloody underwear?
Yeah, he finds the bloody long johns, remember?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking something else.
Yeah, I know, clearly.
Anyways.
We're off topic. This show's off the rails!
Next morning, they all talk about it. They all talk about seeing Josh's text, creepy text.
Yeah, because they want to go to his apartment and like log off.
Yeah, and then Stone, his name is
Stone.
Stone,
yeah.
which is not a nickname. It's actually
It just says Stone. Yeah, it just says Stone.
Weird.
I think he does. I think he has a name, last name in the credits.
Stone volunteers to go to his apartment. Josh's apartment, that is.
Yeah.
He breaks into the apartment to log off his computer. He goes through a door with red tape surrounding it.
He
So
opens
you
the
get that
forbidden
shit
door.
from the...
Even though it's not really built up to anything in this movie.
Yeah.
We're not, I don't think we're really given a whole lot of elements about that forbidden door.
If you hadn't seen the original, you would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you wouldn't really know a lot about it. We don't get the red tape explained. We get the red tape introduced a little bit later, but we don't really get the red tape explained until much later in the film.
He ends up seeing a ghost that tries to mimic the same creepy scene from the original.
Yeah, so this is the same ghost reveal in the first movie, except in the original film, this was the ghost reveal. We hadn't seen a ghost. We hadn't seen anything supernatural, really, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We'd just seen the images on the screen. Would you want to meet a ghost? We'd only seen that, but we didn't know what that was. This we definitely know is a spirit. In this movie, we've already seen some scares. We've already seen some ghosts, so that probably isn't the same deal. And they do try to do the same thing. They have, obviously, an actress who is probably a dancer. I couldn't find any information about it because no one wrote anything down about this movie. And she does a similar kind of dance and walk towards the camera. The big difference here is the hand is overplayed. Because in the original, the coolest part about it is like when you first see the scene, you can't initially see someone standing there. It takes a moment before your eyes can really recognize it. And then when she emerges, it's just an entity. It's a person. It's not necessarily something that feels otherworldly until it moves. Immediately, this person is, in this version, the American film, is an effect. They're already kind of flashing, flickering in like static, right?
Yeah.
So we're automatically given something there to put an illusion part of it. You know, our eyes are drawn to it instantly. They really didn't have the guts to do it like the last movie and try to ape it in that way. And because of that, they sort of miss it, even though it is functional, but it's not creepy anymore.
They do the same thing, so...
It's not creepy anymore, though. The music choice isn't the same.
Yeah.
The effect isn't the same. The slow tension and buildup is not there because this guy's running through here at a breakneck pace. It slows down for this one scene and then goes back to the original pace. The scene almost doesn't fit anymore in this movie because it's a different speed.
They try to do the same, like, slow reveal of the ghost, but the ghost in this is not... It's kind of like a shadowy, pulsy nightmare.
Yeah, like static kind of flickers throughout all the spirits in this movie.
It's kind of stupid.
It just doesn't look as good.
Well, the ghost scares Stone real good.
Yeah, he does the same thing. He hides behind the couch, and eventually the ghost's head pops over and sucks his soul out. Or his will to live, pardon me.
Maddie calls Stone and asks if he turned off Josh's computer, and he acts all strange. He hangs up on her and reveals he has the Pulse virus.
Yeah, we get to see that his hands or I think his arm, his wrist is all black and everything like that when he pulls down his hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. You can just see that it's spreading. The CG skin blotches on him.
Maddie goes back to Josh's apartment, and the landlord has packed up his shit and sold his
Octavia
computer.
Spencer, by the way.
Yeah.
The landlord. I just wanted to mention that. Another notable actress who got a quick paycheck to appear in this piece of shit and probably hasn't thought about it since.
She shakes him down for the buyer, or she shakes her down for the buyer of the computer, and she goes to see him. This is where we meet Dexter.
Yeah, this is Ian Somerhalder an actor of some note, I do suppose, at the time. And this introduces us a little bit to what would be the second storyline of Pulse, right?
Yeah.
But instead of, like, in that movie, they weren't connected really until the very end of the film. In this movie, at this point, the storylines are connected. So we don't get do you want to see a ghost element until a little bit after this.
Mm-hmm.
And we're already getting some spooky stuff. So this movie does some things in an odd order that don't really help it out.
Mm-mm.
You know, because I think Do You Want to Meet a Ghost helps elevate the tension, gets you curious about what's going on. And this movie doesn't really interested in getting you curious about anything. It's like, let's get through this story quick, is what this whole movie
Really
is
quick.
interested.
It's
Yeah.
like a breakneck speed.
It really is. It's like
an
an hour and 21 minutes.
I am like writing like crazy.
It's barely a movie. Barely a movie.
They talk and she leaves and he gets curious. He watches some fucked up videos very reminiscent of the original.
Yeah, they do try to copy these pretty directly, and these aren't bad.
And then we're with Maddie, Tim, and Izzy, and they go out, and then the guy who bought the computer, which is Dexter, tracks her down, which is weird.
He just kind of finds her.
Finds her.
It's like he just finds somebody in a city without
Creepy.
any information. I don't know. Like, whatever. The story needs him to appear, so boom, he's here.
And he's like, your boyfriend was fucked up. And she's like, nuh-uh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why do you say that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They tried, I guess, to have some weird kind of back and forth flirting. It doesn't really work.
She freaks out and goes out. He shows her the videos and she freaks out. He goes after her. He tells her that he can't erase the hard drive, but she just can't deal. We are moving at a grooving with a plot, and maybe not in a good way.
Yeah, really. So we kind of go through that pretty quickly. And I think this is where the guy takes the bag off the head and shoots himself. You don't see that in this version, but you did in the unrated cut.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to mention that's what sort of freaks her out, makes her leave.
Maddie has another nightmare of Josh where she's chasing him through a wasteland.
Similar styles beforehand, just goes on a little bit longer.
Yeah. She thinks she's seen a ghost in the bathwater.
So
she scares herself. It's a bad.
This is a strange scene. So she's just chilling in the bathtub and she wakes up from a nightmare and she sits up like spooked and she just looks to her, like where she just was. And underneath the water is just like a superimposed image of a ghost, like stretched out.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even look in the proper aspect ratio.
You can't even tell it's a ghost.
Yeah. Other than the static effect that lets you know it's a ghost. Like that's really it. It's they did this in such a weird and strange way that draws attention to itself. And once again, is not scary in the least. So this is probably like they thought this was their version of the Grudge hands in the back of the head of the shower gag, right?
Mm-hmm.
They thought it was something like that. In this movie, it's just stupid.
Maddie goes to see her professor therapist for advice.
The onorapist.
Mm-hmm.
And
then,
this is where that scene was supposed to occur, by the way, right before this one. The suicide.
Tim stumbles on the video's website.
Yeah, so he gets to watch more of the videos and sees if...
I think this is where you see do you want to see a ghost?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maddie goes to class and notices a bunch of people are missing.
Yeah, so we have this element introduced, but there's a bunch of other news stories as well where people are talking about people being missing, everything.
Yeah.
Like and they're talking about a rash of suicides at like 13 minutes in the movie already on a TV report. So we already introduced this element, so it's not really a big surprise.
She goes to the bathroom. The lights start flickering.
And we just get a straight up like ghost attack.
Yeah, a ghost shows up in the stall right next to hers.
Yeah.
She bursts out of the stall and looks next to hers. No one's there. She washes her hands and then sees something. And then she runs and she gets attacked. And
we have like a ghost sort of chasing her. So immediately we're already doing some cheap tension with the American style ghosts here.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. It's just a chase scene. It's not particularly well shot. It's pretty unremarkable.
Well, Tim goes over to Stone's house and he's already becoming one with the wall.
Yeah, like he's literally like phasing into the wall when Tim gets over there.
Yeah.
So this is completely different than like them just disappearing.
Yeah.
Which is what the other film implies. Like I didn't think they were the wall. I just thought that was the mark from them disappearing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that they were literally absorbing it. But this film literally says they are the spot.
They are the wall.
They are the wall. In some ways, we are the wall. So aren't the pulses just the walls we met along the way? So anyway, like Tim tries to pull him out of the wall. He's like, I want to die, as he's like absorbed into it, and he's unable to like save his friend. So unlike losing the will to live, he doesn't want to go at the last second, right? So it's completely defeating the purpose of what the original film was trying to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
and for this really cheap scare that looks dated and hokey.
It's
another bad effect in this movie.
We get an even worse effect when Tim looks through the peephole, and it's a terrible, stupid ghost effect.
It goes on in the unrated cut because you see the glass come through the peephole and like hit his eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it like makes his eye blow up, I guess. I don't know. It's bloody. It's his canonical death. The ghost murders him, I do believe.
Yeah.
So we don't see him again, correct?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so he dies here.
Professor Therapist is now getting shit about the video. And Maddie wakes up to her computer turning on.
Is that where the analropist dies?
Yeah, I think so. I know we see him, like, Maddie gets on a bus, and we see him kind of, like, almost jump in front of the bus.
No, that's her teacher. That's her
I thought
professor.
that was her Professor Therapist.
No, that's a different kid. That's the guy from Alias is her analropist.
Oh, okay.
So that's a different actor.
Mm.
Yeah, because he just walks in front of the bus dead-eyed. That's her professor. This other guy's her therapist.
Okay.
Or analropist, if you will. He has a name, but it's not important.
So she unplugs it from her printer, but her printer starts going off. And
Now listen, there's something creepy about that. That's just how printers work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for damn.
Yeah, there's no horror element here. That's just a printer being a printer.
Well, she prints off all the pages, and it's a shadow face.
Yeah, so this is stupid. She just, like, all these images come up, and she just kind of throws them down until, like, a face is formed. And it's like, like, well, what the hell? I mean...
Honestly, if my printer started going off and it was printing pages like that, I wouldn't go, I wonder if it's a picture.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would think to do is I'd see, like, what the fuck is this? And throw them in the trash immediately.
And that's it.
Somewhere there should be a shot of a ghost after she throws them away going like, fuck, another one like, I told you she wasn't going to get that. Like, that's what they needed. But this movie is always so serious it can't really do that. But it's just such an odd thing. It's like, well, why would you think to do that? Why would it even occur to you?
Tim finishes up taping all the windows and doors. Maddie goes to see Dexter again. So
we do see Tim again?
Yeah, I guess so. Because I said Tim finishes up taping the windows and doors.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but sometimes you take a note like just out of context. Like I did not remember seeing him again. I will be honest, I didn't. So maybe he did show up for just that one thing. Who knows? We'll see what else is in your notes.
Maddie goes to see Dexter again, and he shows her Josh's video diary, and it's crazy talk. Like basically the onset of his madness. Yeah, so Josh is just going to give away elements of the plot here in case anything is unclear. Yeah. He's going to let you know what he thinks and how the ghosts kind of work. And this is when we start to give a little bit of the element. We'll have another character who's going to show up later and just tell us the story, right? But, of course. Yeah, but this is a little bit of that. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be creepy or whatever, but it's not necessary. I guess it's helpful to have a little bit more explanation in the film if you're going to do that, but it's not altogether that interesting. And what happened to Josh isn't really interesting either. He just got affected like everybody else. Maddie and Dexter go to a cafe. They talk about Josh, and then Brad Dourif shows up, which is amazing because he's amazing, but why? He plays the crazy guy who knows exactly what's happening and is and everything. This is what I was just talking about. Exposition. He just kind of shows up and starts yelling about what is occurring. Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate the cameo. I just don't know if someone saw Brad Dourif hanging around and they were like, hey, listen, you want to be in the movie? Like, we don't have a part for you. And Dourif was like, just tell me what it's about and I'll sum it up real quick and then I'll walk out. It's like he just did this one take and then just left. Yeah. Because he wasn't even a character. He was just Brad Dourif for a moment. Yeah, he was just Brad Dourif. Yeah, just showing up and just acting crazy and then leaving. There's someone in the back seat. I was just watching the intro to Urban Legend the other day where he's in that and he like it's what he does. He does the old Urban Legend like the driver seat him in the back seat. Mm-hmm. So the old 50s one. Yeah, that was a funner idea than what this is. She goes through her apartment complex and she hears one of her neighbors taping up their door from the inside. So this is obviously spreading and everybody's doing it. A bitchy neighbor is also doing her laundry. I think did we miss the scene where Josh mailed them tape? Yes. Yeah, because that was the first element where we are really introduced to the red tape and our lead character is. But now it's a major element of the story. If everyone is sort of figuring out red tape has something to do with this or can keep them away. Well, we get a scene with Izzy and she's in the laundry room and
There's another girl down
there's
there.
another girl down there, but the girl leaves.
Yeah, this is a really weird thing. Like, so everyone's talking about this apocalypse is occurring, people are disappearing, classes are empty. Like, there's literally exposition where there's like, Kristen Bell yells all this, right?
Yeah.
Right before she goes down to do laundry. And she goes down there and she's talking to this girl like, so is anything going on tonight? Or are we all just dying from ghosts? Like, I remember thinking that, like, there's an apocalypse going on. Why are you trying to go find a mixer somewhere?
Right?
So, I mean, they do the laundry, and it just leads to another ghost scare, basically.
The
We get
lights
creepy
start
lights flickering,
flickering.
and then eventually a ghost pops out of a washing machine.
Wet laundry starts coming out by itself. Then we get a big multiple armed monster that comes out of the laundry to get Izzy.
Yeah.
Maddie goes home and she receives a message from Tim. She sees him on the computer and calls her and says he just wanted to see her. So he's acting a little weird and withdrawn and all that.
Just like everybody else is in the
Just
movie.
like everybody is.
Tim had a major role that I completely forgot about at this point.
Yeah, Tim apparently comes back.
We both forgot, and we just watched this movie the other day.
The movie
and you
was
took
so
notes.
unremarkable.
Yeah, it was one of those
Thank
movies
God
where
I took notes.
yeah, like I was watching it, and that's why I really thought I was like, did I zone out and miss that suicide scene?
Yeah.
Because it was totally possible. Because they're just like, I mean, it's just that dull of a film.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I thought maybe I wrote my notes wrong.
Yeah, truly a forgettable film to forget about it while you're watching it.
Yeah. Maddie finds Izzy hiding in her covers. She looks all fucked up, like she's been beat up.
Yeah. The curse is just like bruises on her, basically.
Yeah. Maddie tries to call 911, but no one is there. And then
Yeah, emergency
Izzy
services
just
suspended.
dissipates.
Yeah.
Maddie calls Dexter to come get her.
And this is a similar scene to Junko's death in the original because it even does the ash all over the room effect.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, I mean, it does look better here in the American. It looked awful in the other film, but it does look better here, but it's not really impressive either.
No.
It just looks better.
He comes and gets her and tells her about the virus Josh was working on. All of a sudden,
there's now a way to stop this, right? Is what this idea is being pitched.
Yeah.
So this oncoming doom of the original film is completely negated here. Josh has a way for them to stop this. And so the third act becomes this whole rush to try to stop the ghost, right?
Yeah, they're in their car and they're headed to wherever the ghost is emanating from, some server room. All of a sudden, They are struck by another vehicle. The person in the other car turned ash. So that's
and this is a really, really noticeable green screen effect.
Yeah.
And I really do mean it, like super noticeable. Like the second I saw it, I was like, so what's going to happen behind Kristen Bell in this shot? Because that's clearly not the real background right there. And this was a big cliche at the time, which is like you do a shot, that's the POV of the driver, and someone comes and hits you from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the shot dozens of times with the O's and the teens and the tens.
They run into a family that shoves a gun in their face, but they're just scared, really.
Yeah, this general apocalypse shit going on, which is kind of neat. I will say that. That's
they're
kind
off
of
to
cool.
get away from the virus.
Mm-hmm.
They go see a guy named Ziegler, and he's pretty much crazier than a shithouse rat.
So Ziegler literally lays out the whole fucking plot.
Yeah.
And
There's another guy who gives us more exposition.
yeah, so he's just going to explain everything. And basically the whole idea is that they found frequencies that didn't exist, and inside those frequencies were ghosts. And now that they know about our world, they're coming in, and the only thing that keeps them out is the red tape because it blocks the spectrum of light they need to exist.
Yeah, and he's taped up his entire house basically with red tape.
Yeah.
He tells them the server's in the basement and they're off.
But he also says there's nothing they can do. It's already over.
Maddie and Dexter are separated by ghosts. She gets in an elevator. She almost gets got by the ghost, but
Yeah.
she escapes.
It's just ghost chases.
She goes and ends up in the server room with a callback to Haruwe embracing the ghost, except it's her just standing there while the ghost steals her essence.
Yeah, basically. So it doesn't really mean anything in this
Yeah.
movie. It's just a reference to the original film. And then she's saved by her boyfriend at the last second, and they can't do anything really. She wants to just run away and escape and get the hell out of there, which I was like, does she have the curse now, or she just easily gives up?
Right?
But he goes back and tries to run it, and he does stick the USB drive in there and run the virus, and it shuts everything down for a second.
But it didn't really work.
Yeah.
So he escapes from whatever's coming. They both run. They see a plane crash. They find a truck. They have half a tank of gas. They're just going to drive until they run out of gas.
Yeah, so, and that's pretty much it. So I guess that element is similar to the other people driving out of the city as well.
Mhm. Maddie and Dexter are sleeping The radio comes on and talks about the safe zones. They get attacked by a 3G signal. They escape.
Yeah, so the whole finale of the film basically comes down to outrunning 3G cell service in 2006 to get away from the Pulse ghosts. And that's all it is. They just keep driving until the multiple ghosts on top of the car can't force their way in, even though, they're ghosts and go through whatever. But I guess they can here.
And then we end with bad narration.
First time narration pops in. They're like, the cities are theirs. Our lives are different now. And I'm like, who the hell cares?
All right. So here's some facts. You've already kind of elaborated on one of them.
Sure.
The first one is in the film Forgetting Sarah Marshall, also starring Kristen Bell, during the dinner scene, a very similar in plot to Pulse is talked about that Sarah was in. It's humorously referred to as a terrible film with a ridiculous premise.
Yeah, so that's a reference there. In the deleted scene, she does draw more direct references to Pulse. But in the theatrical cut, it is very similar to One Missed Call, another movie we'll cover one day.
Like you said before, in an interview with Fangoria magazine, Wes Craven personally disowned the film and said that he hated it. Its original screenplay for the film was significantly altered by screenwriter Ray Wright. Various rewrites, and the final version of the film barely even resembled its original vision for it. He also ultimately claimed that he had no involvement in said final version of the film. And then, if you can imagine, this movie got horrible reviews. 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.7 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 27% on Metacritic.
Yeah.
But
it did not fare very well with critics.
If you can believe it, I found a 10-star review.
Lay it on me.
The title of this review is Apocalypse Wow.
I already love it.
Brilliant. A post 9/11 horror masterpiece.
Oh, wow. Got a little 9/11 in there already. Going for broke.
I have to defend this excellent little epic of nightmare cinema from all you logic hounds out there who can't stand movies that don't explain everything to you. This is dream logic filmmaking at its creepy, subconscious best. Irrational, inexplicable, inevitable, and inescapable. It's the end of the world as we know it. Like the amazing Dawn of the Dead remake, it taps into the post 9/11 anxieties and turns everyday reality on its head. Like the French thriller Cachet, it brings real terror and paranoia into our homes. And like Todd Haynes' Safe, it offers no easy way out. Surprisingly, this American version retains the original Japanese film bleak atmosphere and irrational plotting, leading the viewer slowly and inexorably to the bitter end. Spoiler, the protagonists try to save the world and actually fail. How often does that happen in Hollywood movies these days? Pulse reminds me of an apocalyptic horror classics like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, David Cronin's Videodrome and Crash, Roman Polanski's Repulsion, and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Visionary films that were all so dismissed when they were first released.
Wow, big company there.
Visually, this new Pulse is stunning, probably because director Jim Sonzero comes from the disciplined world of commercial advertising. Check out his high-tech ghosts in slow motion on your DVD. Freaky. And notice how the streets and classrooms keep getting emptier, darker, grimmer as the film progresses. The world is quietly coming to an end, but no one is doing anything about it. Chilling. All in all, the overall effect is downright disturbing. Too bad Pulse isn't getting the recognition it deserves. I, for one, can't wait to see what the director does next.
The answer to that would be nothing.
Yeah.
Go watch the cutscenes for Resident Evil 5. You can see his work there.
He compares this movie to The Shining.
To The Shining, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the TV version.
Yeah.
Maybe the TV version.
Something's wrong with it.
No, the TV version was a lot better than this movie. So, yes, I would give this movie a 3.
I give it a 2.
Yeah, it's not very good, and I feel like I'm being a little generous. Maybe because I had a couple chuckles here and there.
Yeah. I give it a 2 mainly because I love Kristen Bell.
Yeah, so I give a really solid recommendation to the original film, a pretty high recommendation, as a matter of fact, and you did like it as well, just not as much as I did. And pretty much avoid this movie. Leave it in the dustbin to time.
Yeah.
Leave it forgotten where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Ebert did not review this movie because it was hid from critics and a piece of shit. So we get to avoid that this week. And I believe that is it for Pulse.
Yeah. There we go.
Hope you guys are excited. We'll see you guys
I'm
soon.
excited.
You great. Look, she's excited. Hell yeah. All right, guys. See you.
Bye.